beautiful cooks. It's Chef Maria Joy, also known as Emmy, and you are back to Plate to Palate. Today we're actually going to be making a beautiful soup since here we are now in fall, although yes, I'm in the tank top. Now that we're in fall, it is soup time. So I'm going to be making a beautiful Moroccan spiced turkey soup. It has beautiful sweet potatoes in it, some celery. Oh my goodness. It is going to be delicious. And that's going to also have a nice naan bread that you can soak up that soup with, and a beautiful lentil salad to pair beautifully with that. So let's go ahead and get this started. Alright cooks, we are actually going to start with getting our quinoa on because you're going to want your quinoa to cool before you put it on your salad. At least that's how I'm going to do it because I don't want it to wilt my salad down before I serve it. So I'm not going to do anything fancy with my quinoa. Some people like to use vegetable broth, beef broth, whatever, all that other good stuff. I'm not going to waste that on some quinoa. So, especially since it's going to go on a salad and you're going to get some seasoning and all of that from the salad dressing that's going to go on it. So I'm just going to use water. So when it comes to the quinoa, all you're going to do is you're just going to follow whatever the measurements say on your bag or box, whatever container. And on this one, it says a cup of quinoa, which is a lot, especially for this salad. You know, you're going to be combining this with your greens. So if you just wanted quinoa, then just make quinoa because a whole cup is going to be way too much, especially depending on how many people you're feeding. So I'm going to go with just half a cup of quinoa. The quinoa, I'm not going to do anything special. I'm just going to throw it in there, and then I'm going to add my water. And then we're going to get the ground turkey on. I'm not going to even season the ground turkey at this point because I want to season my soup because that is where the magic happens, along with the breakdown of all of these veggies. All right, so with the ground turkey, I personally like to ground it up as little as possible, and that's just because that's what I like. What's fun about this recipe, though, is you can actually even make meatballs and put it into this soup. So it really is a person's preference. I'm going to ground this up as fine as I can because that's just how I like it. Again, I didn't put any seasoning on it. As you can see, it's very, very Karen-ish or Susan-ish. So there's no seasoning on it. Again, I'm going to season the actual soup once it's there. So I'm just going to go ahead and I'm going to ground this up really nicely. All right, the ground turkey is looking good, and that is done. So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to cut up all of my vegetables, and I'm going to get it into the bigger pot that I'm going to use to actually make the soup. So when it comes to this, if you're using ground beef, you're probably going to want to drain it because that is going to be real greasy. With ground turkey, that's the nice thing about it is you don't get all of that nasty grease. There is a little bit of juice in there, but it's nowhere near like ground beef. I'm probably not going to just dump the whole thing in there, so I'm just going to go ahead and scoop out the meat and add it to my vegetables. All right. All right, people, our ground turkey is done. So now we're going to do what I like to call dump and dump. And then we will focus on getting our veggies cut up. So I'm just going to go ahead. Here's your ground turkey. Like I said, I didn't season anything, so I'm going to go ahead and dump that in there. So dump that in there. This is your crushed tomatoes. So with this, you could end up wanting to add a little bit more, but again, let everything kind of start to simmer together and cook down, and that'll let you know if you want to add a little bit more to your soup. And you're going to add your chickpeas. I'm using just one whole can of chickpeas. I don't want a ton of chickpeas in it. I know it's supposed to be a Moroccan ground turkey chickpea, but I don't want a ton of that because I also have this sweet potato that's gonna go into it. So I'm using 1 can of chickpeas. So again, you have to remember, depending on how many people that you're cooking for, your amounts are going to vary. So now I'm gonna go ahead and get started on these vegetables. All right, let's go ahead and get our veggies chopped up. So I'm gonna use 1.5 of an onion. You're more than welcome to do more, and it just tastes like pure onion, but I'm not gonna take that chance. So I am gonna do 1.5 onions. So it's up to you what size that you like. So I'm just gonna do pieces like that, and then I'm gonna cut that in half. So I'm just gonna go ahead and do that with all of that. So I'd like it to be a decent size because I do want to taste it. So I'm not gonna get too tiny. It does make a difference in the soup. Like when I make my collard greens, I like it to kind of be bigger. This one day, my son actually helped me prep my collard greens, and he was like, well, I like a lot of onion. I like a lot of onion. He loves his onion. So he's prepping it, and at first I'm like, what is you doing, you know? It's like I'm used to prepping all of my own stuff, and my onions being a certain size, and now here this little monster is over here doing it, you know, his way. So I was like, all right, we'll see how this comes out. So went ahead, used his crazy size, and I'll tell you, it was good. The size was perfect. So I'm kind of going with homeboy size. Don't tell him I said that. He'll just get a little too. All right, next, celery. Clean your celery. Clean your celery. So, clean your celery, and I cut off this bottom part because that's like that bottom person that you don't want. So, I'm going to go and chop that piece off. I'm not making a celery soup. The celery is just to add additional flavor. So, I'm just going to do 4 stalks. So I also had already previously cut the top part off, but I left that bottom part, the little bottom bead, so that way you could see me cut it off. But you want to make sure you clean your celery really good. Cut the nasty little pieces that look like somebody took a lighter to it, and then just go ahead. Again, you know, when it comes to how you like your sizes, it's up to you. If you want big mouthfuls, then, you know, do it that way. So, I am a tiny bites kind of person. I hate peeling garlic. Oh my God, like it's the worst. And not only that, you know, cutting it up and all of that other good stuff. So what I'm gonna do is, I'm actually gonna throw these big cloves in there. I am gonna obviously get the skin off of it. At first I was gonna use my garlic press, but I like the way it kind of, you know, the way that it adds the flavor. So I'm not gonna do anything fancy. Unfortunately, my hands are still going to stink because it's garlic and I have to peel this crap off of it myself. So it's gonna be 3 large garlic cloves that I'm gonna go ahead and drop in there. All right. And then I will move on to my sweet potato. So with the sweet potato, you're gonna wanna peel this unless you are just absolutely interesting. We're gonna peel this all up, and then we're gonna make some good sized dices. So just go ahead, peel it. All right, this sweet potato is peeled. Talk about a pain in the butt. All right, next, we're gonna go ahead and we're gonna cut up our sweet potato. Now, I already started because these are some hard things to cut up, and if you don't have strong hands, I'm just warning you. So I want them to be not too big. So if you notice, I went ahead and I made them that size. That's a good size for me personally, but it's up to you. Your little potatoes in there, and then I will get my seasoning going and everything. Now I'm gonna wait. This recipe does call for mint to go into it. I'm not gonna put it in the beginning. I'm gonna start getting it in there slowly because I don't want it to be overpowering. I want to taste all of the other spices that I'm going to be putting in there. So I'm gonna hold off on putting the mint. I'm gonna go ahead and get the rest of this potato cut up, and we're gonna go ahead and get it on the stove and get our spices in. Garlic. Now we're gonna get our spices in there. Now something interesting about this recipe is whoever wrote it actually made me wonder if they were even from Morocco. Like, they literally only had paprika, cayenne pepper, and cumin. Like, how is that spice anything? Like, that's nothing. That's absolutely nothing. So, here we go. I've got my cumin. We're gonna put some cumin in there. I've got some ground coriander. Don't get too carried away with that. Don't get too, if you never used it, don't get too carried away. So move slowly, move slow. Paprika. Now you guys know I love my paprika, so to me, there's never too much. So have fun with it. I'm just using regular black pepper. I'm just using regular black pepper. I'm not gonna use up my cracked black pepper on this. So I put that in there. The recipe also called for cinnamon. Again, this is my first time making it, so we're all gonna find out how this comes out together. So it's calling for cinnamon. I'm not gonna get too carried away because I want the vegetables and everything to blend together with the meat. So I'm just gonna give it a little Kickstarter. I'm gonna throw in some bay leaves. I know, I like to put a lot of bay leaves. I'm gonna put some dried parsley in there. And here is my cayenne pepper. One, when you're, unless you're gonna be seasoning it while it's still in the container, try not to get your cayenne and your paprika mixed up. They are different in color, but just remember to be careful about that. So we do want this to have some kick to it. We want it to have some spice. So I'm gonna put the cayenne pepper. I'm gonna start slow. And this is with also keeping in mind who you are cooking for. Just because you like it super spicy doesn't mean that the next person. Okay, so I used my vegetable broth. So we got our vegetable broth in there. You can use water or whatever. It's really up to you. So we have all of our veggies in here. And like I said, you're gonna wanna look because you might wanna add more of your crushed tomatoes to it, which I am going to add a little bit more of the crushed tomatoes to it. Just because I'm trying again to get it to be a certain color. I'm also going to add just a little bit of some lemon squeeze there. And remember how I said we're gonna hold off on putting the mint? Now I'm gonna add just a little bit. So I tore up just a little bit. I don't want to be a bunch of big fat chunks of mint in my mouth. I like mint, but you know. So I'm gonna start with just a little bit. All right, and we're just gonna mix that up, and then we're going to let this do its thing because all of these vegetables now need to soften up. So we're gonna let that do that while we get our salad and our naan bread prepared. All right. Before we dive in and get the rest of our salad prep, we're gonna get the naan. So I went ahead and started it. This actually is a recipe that my mom had told me. Very, very simple. It's vegan, vegetarian, good, all that good stuff. It's literally salt, sea salt, water, a little bit of olive oil, and of course your flour. And she makes this quite often. So I thought I would try this instead of one where you know, you gotta let the yeast rise for 2 hours and you gotta set it in the sun on the east and then you move it 4 hours later to the west. We're not doing all of that. We're gonna make this very simple bread. So I've already been rolling it out. So we're gonna go ahead and I'm gonna get it all nice and kneaded. And then I'm just gonna cut it into a couple of pieces, so that way I could go ahead and you could either roll it out or you could use your hands. So I'm gonna go ahead and get this together, and I'm just gonna cut it in half. And you know, it really depends on how many you wanna make, how big you want them to be. I'm actually going to make some pretty small sizes. So I might end up molding these one more time. All right, and then I'm just gonna cook it on my skillet, and you don't have to use any oil when you're cooking. So let me go ahead and cut the rest of these up, and then we will get this on our skillet. And that, ooh, it's the color that I wanted. That has a little bit of kick. It's at a point where I could either go a little more extreme or leave it right there. I think I'm gonna leave it right there, but I am gonna add some more mint. Surprisingly, the amount that I put in did not do anything crazy. So, do a little of that. I am gonna add a little bit more cinnamon. All right, but I'm not going to add any more of the cayenne pepper. Again, remember, you're not just cooking for yourself, you're cooking for others, or, you know, if you're cooking for others, be mindful of that. So I'm gonna let this continue to do its thing, and I'm gonna get the rest of this naan ready and cut up and start making that, so that way that's ready, because the salad is only going to take a second. Okay, so while these finish cooking on this side, and then I am gonna get another one started, I'm gonna actually get my salad dressing done, and I'm gonna go ahead and start shaving my carrots onto the salad, so that way everything is coming out together. Okay, so let's go ahead and get our dressing ready. Okay, time to make our dressing, and it's going to be a pretty simple dressing. It's going to be similar to some other ones that I've made before. I use a lot of the same ingredients, you know, some fresh lemon squeeze, some Dijon. It really depends what it is that I'm pairing it with. This recipe called for pretty much something that I've made before, except it's saying to add some cayenne pepper. Now remember, we already put some inside of the soup, which is why I was hesitant to add a little bit more earlier. And it wants, well, it says syrup. I'm not a big syrup person. I don't even care if it's my pancakes. I like honey, or I like agave. So start with actually getting my oil in there. And of course, again, depending on how many people that you're going to be making the salad for, you might want to add a little bit more, a little bit less. Here's my Dijon mustard. I'll start with a nice little spoonful of that. I'm gonna get my lemon going. All right, you got your fresh lemon squeeze in there. And of course, since you're gonna taste your food, you'll know how much more you need to add. Cayenne pepper. We're gonna take it easy. That's kind of easy. And you're gonna get your honey in there. And really up to you how sweet you like it. So that's one of the things when you're cooking a dish from around the world that you've never had before. I try to imagine what it is that they're trying to create. You know, it's like you've got this beautiful quinoa that's gonna go on it, but it also is going to get some dried cranberries, which the recipe says dates. I chose to go with cranberries, but you could probably do raisins, dates, whatever it is that you really want to use. And I'm going to use some sea salt. I have a feeling I'm going to want a little more Dijon, but I'm going to go ahead and start this and see what happens. Yeah, I don't want it to be super oily. And again, if you want it to be a little bit more spicy, but yeah, again, it's like you want to envision what something's going to taste that you've never had before. So for me, I'm thinking about the carrots and all of that, and you know what they're trying to incorporate into it. I did not season my quinoa, so I'm looking at that. So all right, so we'll give that a mix, and that should be good to go. So now we will go ahead and we will get the rest of our salad prepared. All right, the dressing is ready, so I set that aside, and I started already grating my carrots. So you could be lazy, and you can spend all that extra money and get your little carrots already cut up and all that good stuff, like your little garlic, or you do it yourself. So I'm just grating it. I actually prepared 3 carrots, but I don't think I'm gonna need that much. Again, it really depends on how many people. So I'm just using my little shaver. Oops, behind carrots. So I'm just using my shaver, and what I'm gonna actually do is I'm going to cut this after I'm done. So So I don't want too much carrots because I don't want to just taste carrots. So, and yes, everything is clean. All right, so I'm just gonna make that into a pile. And you don't necessarily need super small pieces. I literally just want to make it kind of tinier. So now I'm going to sprinkle that on top of the salad. And then I'm going to grab my quinoa, which if you remember correctly, you made it, you let it cool off. So now I'm going to take some of that, sprinkle that on as well. And the reason why I cooled it off, again, was because I didn't want it to wilt my salad. And that, again, is up to you how much you want to add on top of that. And then you've got your cranberries. So these are just some dried cranberries. Sprinkle that around. And then if you're not going to use all of them, you can actually set the rest of this on the table. And then that way everyone can add some more. Or you could even not put it on it and just do that. You set it on the table, let everybody serve their own. Not everybody is a cranberry or date or raisin fan. And then you've got some feta, which should really also bring out the flavor in this. This is going to be beautiful paired with that soup. All right, so you've got your crumbled feta. Okay, so our salad is good to go. Our meal. So we took it to Morocco. We made a nice, lovely, oh my God, the soup. Spiced ground turkey Moroccan soup. We made a beautiful quinoa Moroccan salad with a nice, simple dressing. It's not a vinaigrette. It definitely is not ranch. It's just a simple Dijon, some fresh lemon, some cayenne pepper. And then we have all of our beautiful garnishings, so some feta, some cranberries, some shaved carrots. And we have our beautiful naan that we made from scratch, which is going to be unbelievable, soaking that up inside of this soup. I'm actually going to garnish the soup with just a little bit more of some finely chopped mint because it went so good in the soup. You can garnish it with really anything that you want, but I'm gonna leave it with some mint. I'm going to enjoy this delicious wine with my Moroccan dinner. And I will catch you guys on the next episode. Chef Maria Joy, also known as Emmy Joy, and this was Plate to Palate. Cheers, guys.